Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, America. I'm Charles Gibson.
I'm Diane Sawyer, and it's Tuesday, September 11th, 2001.
It is lunchtime in London, 5 a.m. in Los Angeles, and 8 a.m. here in New York, live from the CNN Financial News headquarters.
It is beautiful outside, perfect September day with lots of sunshine. Oh, would you look at Washington, huh? I'm going outside today.
Other than that, it's kind of quiet around the country. We like quiet. It's quiet. It's too quiet.
Number two.
Yeah.
This just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center.
A la espera de mayores informaciones, saber qué fue lo que ocurrió, cómo fue que
Apparently a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center in New York.
現在私、貿易センタービルから1キロほど北にあります国連本部の
It does not appear that there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
That looks like a second plane.
I did not see a plane go in. That just exploded.
We just saw another plane coming in from the side.
You did. That was out of
Yes, and
my
that's
view.
the second explosion. You could see the plane come in just from the right-hand side of the screen. So this looks like it is some sort of a concerted effort to attack the World Trade Center that is underway.
Running away very, very quickly. There are more explosions further down the building.
This is so shocking, of course, to everybody watching.
I've never seen anything like it. It literally blew itself into World Trade Center.
The building's exploding right now. You got people running up the street.
David, we're going to cut you off. President Bush is speaking.
Today we've had a national tragedy. Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
And the Pentagon is being evacuated. There is a large fire there, and that is the smoke you see in the shot that you are looking at now.
It appears that an aircraft of some sort did hit the side of the Pentagon.
That's a very haunting description that Bob Kerr just gave of that low-flying aircraft near the White House, and one can only wonder if that was something that ultimately ended up in the Pentagon.
We just saw a live picture of what seemed to be a portion of the building falling away.
Wow.
And some people were...
Jamie, I need you to stop for a second. There has just been a huge explosion. We can see a billowing smoke rising, and I'll tell you that I can't see that second tower, but there was a cascade of sparks and fire, and now it looks almost like a mushroom cloud explosion.
Let's go to the trade tower again, because, John, we now have what do we have? We don't...
Wow. It looks like a new large plume of smoke.
Only one tower is standing. The other has collapsed.
It has completely collapsed.
The whole side has collapsed?
The whole building has collapsed.
The whole building has collapsed?
The building has collapsed.
We heard a big bang, and then we saw smoke coming out, and everybody started running out, and we saw the plane on the other side of the building, and there was smoke everywhere, and people are jumping out the windows. Over there, they're jumping out the windows, I guess because they're trying to save themselves. I don't know.
And there's, you can see, perhaps the second tower, the front tower, the top portion of which is collapsing. Good Lord. There are no words.
There's a haze everywhere. It's very, very difficult to see, but there has been the whole area has been covered by soot and ash. So it looks almost like snow. So as people are coming up the street running from the scene of this new explosion.
所有飞往纽约和华盛顿的客机都已转飞加拿大的机场。
I'm going to interrupt you, Senator McCain. These are the first pictures we have in. This is from Somerset County, Pennsylvania. This is where the United Airlines flight, I believe it is 176, went down.
Hillary, I need to interrupt you. This is a Taliban spokesman talking now in Kabul, I believe.
Freedom itself was attacked this morning by a faceless coward, and freedom will be defended.
قبل دقائق من افتتاح وول ستريت الذي انهار تماما بعد أن التهمته النيران. أول تعليق لمكتب التحقيقات الفيدرالي أشار إلى أن طائرة البوينغ اختطفت من مطار بوسطن.
And good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us here tonight for King Jordan Radio. September 10th, 2015 is your date. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. 14 years later, you hear the sounds of 9/11, which we will get into tonight. Also tonight, we will talk about Kim Davis, the lady that did not want to give a marriage license to a couple that was gay. That and much, much more. Tonight, we're honored to be joined with CNN legal analyst and defense attorney, ladies and gentlemen, making his return, Mr. Joey Jackson. Good evening, Joey, and welcome back to the King Jordan Radio Show. How are you tonight?
I am fabulous, King Jordan. It's so nice to be with you, and, you know, it sends chills down, certainly my spine, and you have to believe anyone listening when you were just playing the various clips of 9/11 14 years ago, what a day it was. And I don't think the country's been the same ever since. I know that we're resilient. I know that, you know, we have people of great faith and great ability who push past it, and people who have lost so much on that day and who will never forget the fabulous faces and, you know, experiences they had with their family members who were taken away by terrorists. You know, and as the country's moved forward, it just has been, our way of life was changed forever. And, you know, we just certainly always need to keep them in our thoughts and our prayers, and may we never forget, and may we guard against it from ever happening again in the future. So it was quite a tribute and quite chilling, the various clips that you played.
In fact, I was a little jubilous prior to getting on the air, but after hearing those clips, I got to admit, it got to be a little sad, and I tell you, Joey, 9/11, 14 years ago, where were you at this time?
Yeah, it's amazing. I just remember I was in New York, and of course I was traveling to get into New York City. I was actually on the Parkway. The way it works, I'm out on Long Island, so you go and you take the Northern State into the Grand Central, and that sort of gets you into the hub of New York City. You can either go Triborough into the city. There's a million ways. You can go Long Island Expressway right into the Midtown Tunnel. But I just will never forget being on the Grand Central, and I was listening to the radio, as I do, and listening to just the news radio in the morning, as I do, and hearing the reports, and then seeing all of these emergency vehicles, and then you saw gridlock, and then there's, you know, just tremendous smoke and everything else. It was just, you know, I was very, very far away from what occurred and didn't experience just 1% of what the people experienced who were down in that area. But interestingly enough, my office is literally 4 blocks, you know, from the Trade Center. And, you know,
4 blocks?
Yeah, 4 blocks from the Trade Center. We were displaced for quite a while. I think it was a couple of years that we were displaced from the office, all those. But that was a minor inconvenience versus the people who were actually there. I was just traveling into the city, but I just can't even imagine the fright, the terror, just the unbelievable chaos that the people who actually were down in Manhattan at that time and not simply traveling to get there as I was, you know, it had to be harrowing. And so God bless them and their families. May they rest in peace forevermore, and may we never forget, you know, what happened to them, and may we continue to guard against it moving forward. But it's tough, even 14 years later. You know, it's really tough. And I think when we think about it, it's sort of everyone. It's one of those things where, you know, where were you? And I think everyone would know where they were when they got the news that that was happening. You know, so tough.
Especially
tough day in history.
You and me, both native New Yorkers. You know, obviously it hit other parts of the area, but it did its most damage in New York City.
Absolutely, just crazy. And then, it's interesting. I'll say this. In studying history, and obviously, when you practice law is history. You have to learn so much history and what went into it, and where the law originated from, and the origins, and you learn about just various in studying history and political science. You learn about wars, but to actually go into that area of Manhattan and to smell the carnage and to see the dust in the soot, and just to really just see the mayhem. And to think that there's someone who hates you that much, who could destroy and cause that much mayhem out of, issues of hatred and issues of, being against capitalism. There's so many deep issues that go there, but you can read history books about wars all you want, but it was literally a war zone. And when you were down in there, everything that I ever learned came together, and I'm saying to myself, wow, this must be what war looked like, and it was just tragic. But again, we live in a resilient country, a country that really rises up in the worst of times, a country that bands together, a country with positive people of faith, of hope, and of love, and they built it back up. They built it up bit by bit, piece by piece. And I can remember in being displaced, I was displaced probably about a mile from it, where we had to set up shop about a mile from what was going on. And they just gradually, every day, with the trucks and this and that, just really rebuilt it to what it is now. So it's a different place if you come into Lower Manhattan now. And we moved back into the office, and then since moved a couple of blocks away from there, but I'm still right in that general area. The law office is. But may we never forget, Jordan, may we never forget.
No, we certainly don't. And what's your take on them having a memorial place where people could see stuff on, that place in Manhattan? I've heard mixed reactions. What does Joey Jackson think of it?
I think that, anything that the families collectively believe is appropriate and the families believe is a right and proper way to honor those people who lost their lives is okay with me. And so, what my judgments or my independent views are just really pale in comparison and have no relevance to what the families who really suffered through this want and what they think and what their hopes are, because those are the true survivors. And anybody who had to wake up knowing that their husband is gone forevermore, that their son and their daughter is gone, and their father, whatever it would be, I just think that, those are the people who we really need to respect what their wishes are and what they really believe to be the case. And so I certainly think that, we need to honor them in whatever way is appropriate, but I will always defer to the families who lost so much during that tragic day and who continue. I don't think a death, and, unfortunately, I think most of us and anybody listening has suffered a death and has been kind of exposed to death of a family member, and it's tragic and it hurts, even if it's something that we know is coming. But to think about them having no idea, and you wake up one day and you go and you're just going to work and you're just trying to support your family and you're trying to earn a living and you're trying to live the American dream, and that's taken away from you. So that's really hard. It leaves a horrific taste, I think, in everybody's mouth. But again, given the resiliency of those families and given the resiliency of this country, we continue to move forward, being stronger than ever.
And soon you'll see them reading off the names of the people that we lost. Do you like that in terms of them putting that on television?
I think it's important that there's some forum for us to remember what happened, and I think it's good for us to stop and to pause and to reflect and, to pay respect to those who were jumping out of buildings and those who didn't make it out of buildings and those who must have felt such terror and such fright. I just can't even imagine the terror and fright. Most people, when they're stopped by a cop, getting a traffic ticket, your heart jumps out of your stomach because you passed the stop sign. You can't imagine when, God forbid, a building is falling down, what you might be thinking. So I think it's to honor them. I think it's important that we reflect. I think it's important that we just sort of really have a national day of focus, however short or however long it is, for us to just, think about what happened and to think about sacrifices that were made that day, and to think about all the brave first responders who came in, the firefighters, the police officers, the emergency medical technicians, and everybody else who rushed in and who lost their lives as a result of trying to help and support others. And so, it just goes to show how much character really people have. And oftentimes in this world where there's so much negativity that goes on, we lose sight of the brave and heroic acts of others and people who lost their lives so that they can save someone else's life. And so, I certainly think we need to find some way to honor them. That's one way that's appropriate.
Amen to that. And 9/11, we will never forget you. Okay. Kim Davis, the lady that did not want to give a marriage license to a homosexual couple, was jailed. But I want you to hear the very outspoken Whoopi Goldberg's take, courtesy of The View. And on the other side, I want to get your take of what she said.
Great. What makes you think that the folks who were trying to get married were also not born again?
Right.
What makes anybody believe that they also are not in a state of grace? This is the thing about God. If you're following the big JC's friends, he liked everybody. He walked with all kinds of folks.
Right. He did.
And he said, listen, I'm the only one you need to talk to. You want to talk to me? That's right. No one else has the right to tell you. He who is without sin, cast the first stone.
Judge not, lest he be judged.
That's right.
Right.
So maybe, I'm just saying maybe, if she really truly practices what is the Christian belief, which is that we all are striving to be better people.
I don't hear that in the public a lot from people fighting
but I'm suggesting that we remind people that what Christianity is. It's not the party of go away. It's the party of come here. We got you.
Welcoming, but it's not. It's like my church will say, we welcome all lifestyles, but we don't affirm all lifestyles. Some people feel like you still have to.
But that's okay.
That's between you and God.
That's right. That's right, and that's the key. And her struggle with this, as I said yesterday, I totally get it. When you brought up Martin Luther King yesterday, what he was talking about was Jim Crow. That was the law he was saying that we need to break out of, that we need to poop all over that law because it was an unjust law. That's what he was talking about.
They think the same thing.
Yes, but you know what? Jim Crow affected all of these people and said, you're not human. You're not American. You're not human. Yeah. You are trash to us.
That's right.
That's what he was fighting.
That's right. It's a bigger issue.
What he's saying is God says to her, this isn't right. That's okay. God can say that to her. But God isn't saying that to this couple. And if you're not going to follow the law, there's an issue.
All right, Joey, your take on the Kim Davis situation and on Whoopi Goldberg's commentary.
Well, I think as to Whoopi Goldberg, I think, she's right on. I think the issue is that...
Yes, I agree.
The fact is that we have, I believe, a God of inclusion. I think God loves everybody. I don't think he looks and he sees people who, are gay or straight or Chinese or, Hispanic or black or Irish, Italian. I think he sees people who love him and want to do right by others. And I think we should be in a society of inclusion, too. I don't think, we have a God who makes judgments about us. I think we have a God, and I don't know, I never met him, but, I think we have a God that really looks to us and looks to us as people and looks to us as people that he loves. And so I think that we need to be a society that's inclusive. Having said that, everybody's entitled to their own religious beliefs and faiths. That's the bottom line. And so if you want to practice any particular religion, no matter what that is, you should be afforded the ability to practice it, whether it's Jehovah's Witness, whether it's Catholic, whether it's Baptist, whether it's Apostolic. No matter what your religious faith is, you should be able to do that. However, the problem that I have here with Kim Davis, not from a personal perspective, but from a legal perspective, is twofold, and it's this. Number one, no individual is above the office that they hold. that office is being occupied because the people elected you to occupy it. And as a result of that, when you occupy an office, you swear to faithfully execute all duties associated with that office and to support the Constitution of the United States. And so we have to be mindful that if you don't support the practices of any religious faith or gay, lesbian, and the office says that you must, then maybe it's time for you to step out of that office. Because, again, no law is there to tell you, Jordan, what you have to do, what I have to do, what any of our listeners have to do. But if you can't do it because you occupy the office as an individual, then I think your obligation, if you want to stay true to your faith, is to leave the office. That's just the way it works because you're swearing to uphold the Constitution. And so, again, don't support gay and lesbian if you don't want, but if your office says you have to issue licenses, then it's your obligation. And if you feel you can't, then I think then you have to leave it. The second issue that's very important legal principle is that, the federal government and the Supreme Court is the ultimate law of the land. What the Supreme Court says goes. That's the way it works, and that's the way it's worked throughout the beginning of time. And if we have every official in any particular municipality, whether it's Kentucky, New York, California, Nebraska, West Virginia, decide that, I'm going to do it my way, you could think of the chaos and anarchy that it would cause. You have to support whatever it is that is the law of the land. I mean, there are Democrats, there are Republicans, but every time someone gets elected, I don't care what you feel about Obama, I don't care what you thought about Bush, I don't care what you thought about Clinton before him, or what you thought about, the other Bush, his dad. The reality is there's a clean transition of power, and that's because we respect the rule of law in this country. And even though there have been Democrats switching to Republicans on that stage in the inauguration, we're a country that does it with handshakes and speeches, and power is pretty much seated, and the next one goes. That's the way of the world. And so I just, again, in all due respect to her, if she has a problem with issuing the licenses, which is her right, and it should be respected, if she has that issue, then the law says that, if you can't do it, then somebody else can. And that's why the federal judge jailed her, because she didn't follow the law. And until her office, in fact, decided to issue certificates, that's when he said, okay, you can be released because they're following the rule of law. However, if you impede or interfere with this, you're going right back to jail. And so we'll see what happens moving forward, whether she decides to resign, whether they carve out an exception for her not to issue licenses but do the rest of her job, or, what happens moving forward. But you have to follow the rule of law in this country, and no individual is above any law, good, bad, or indifferent. That's my take on that issue.
Yes, and I'll just say my take in terms of her getting the Rocky soundtrack coming out of the jail was totally inappropriate, in my opinion. Just having the Eye of the Tiger as she came out with hundreds of people, I just, whether you want to be on her side or not, that's a different story. But her coming out to a la WWE like a wrestler with, Rocky coming out, I just thought it was very distasteful in such a serious subject. You know what I mean?
Well, all I have to tell you is I love that song.
I love it too.
It motivates me. But yeah, it's I don't know if the occasion calls for the Eye of the Tiger. But boy, when it's on Rocky, no matter what I'm doing, if I'm in bed, I'm telling you, I'm jumping up and I'm jumping on top of the bed, rising up. I'm ready to go for a 3-mile jog as you've been mentioning the song.
So, I think they're coming out with another one. It'll be about 70 by the time it's.
Listen, I can't wait. If we're 70 at the time it comes out, it'll make me feel like 50, and I'm gonna go running anyway. So.
Okay, an attorney in court admits to making mistakes with Amanda Knox. Let's hear the soundbite.
A stunning indictment by Italy's highest criminal court of police, prosecutors, and judges in the Amanda Knox case. The 5-judge panel explaining why it overturned the murder conviction. It says the prosecution had stunning flaws and went to trial with an absolute lack of biological traces, tying Knox and then boyfriend Rafael Solicito to the death of Meredith Kircher in 2007. The High Court's ruling back in March cleared Knox and Solicito once and for all in Kircher's murder. Knox responded with a post on her blog saying, "I am deeply grateful that the Italian Supreme Court has filed its opinion and forcefully declared my innocence. I will now begin the rest of my life with one of my goals being to help others who have been wrongfully accused."
All right, Joey Jackson, your take on the latest saga, which never seems to end, but it looks like it's coming to an end right now. That is in Amanda Knox.
Yeah, I think that the highest court pretty much settled the issue, and I think at the end of the day, what people are really concerned about is that you got the right guy, so to speak. I use that term loosely, and that's a lot of just pivoting and using an analogy with the death penalty. That's the reason many people, and there are various reasons why people don't support the death penalty, but that's one of the reasons people want to know that, hey, it's you, and that justice has been served. And we know that there are innocent people who are in jail, and we know that there are guilty people walking the street. And so do you ever know? But the fact is that when there's forensic evidence, and that forensic evidence can't be trusted, and there are no traces of forensic evidence, and when evidence is mishandled, and there's no hair fibers, and there's no DNA, and there's no blood splatter, that's representative of the person accused, people begin to worry. And so I think what the court was saying was, this is not, from an evidentiary perspective, something that we could rely upon and trust. And as a matter of fairness and as a matter of justice, because we cannot really believe this to be her, then, she needs to be sprung, and she indeed should be declared not guilty. And so there we have it. The saga finally comes to a conclusion, and I think the guy who did it, Rudy Gaudet, he's behind bars. And so, Amanda Knox will be free forevermore, and maybe she'll go back to Italy and say hello one day without having to worry about prosecution.
Amen to that. Before we get to our last topic, just want to send a shout-out to Maddie, Madeline, Sharon, Wanda, Vicky, and everyone else that helped promote this show tonight. Maybe if you want to say a couple of words to your friends Madeline and Sharon. Again,
the thing about all of them, the thing about all of them is that they really represent a spirit that it's unbelievable. I mean, everything that they do from day in and day out. You're talking about people who are just, tremendously intelligent, tremendously prayerful, tremendously spiritual, tremendously supportive. They just, it's sort of, it's like what every American aspires to do, and that is just to have somebody in your corner who can just lift you up when you're down, and who could just go with you and be with you day in and day out, and just do the things that need to be done. And they're just people, words can't describe how meaningful they are as people, and how much I think they do just to support the cause of, justice on a day in and day out basis. And so I'm just so grateful to have all of them, working so hard every day, and just the love they give, the support they give, and just the people they are just speaks volumes about it. And I think if everyone was like that in the country, man, we'd have boring lives, Jordan, because there wouldn't be any crime. There'd be nothing going on.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, think about that, huh? There wouldn't be crime.
Yeah.
We'd have no stories to report if everybody was like Maddie and Sharon and everything else, So, but I'm grateful.
Just positive stories. Who's marrying who? Who's getting
the Eye of the Tiger. We'd be playing Rocky on your show, right? Dun, 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 dun. So.
Okay. Finally, the Ashley Madison situation. First of all, a police officer took his life, and I believe someone in the church, a reverend, I believe, something of that nature, because he was ousted in that. What's your take on this whole Ashley Madison situation?
I think it's really unfortunate that, look, we live in a technological age, and we live in an age where I don't think anything on a computer happens to be protected in the way that it should. But it's unfortunate, and I'm not going to cast judgments on anybody who's on Ashley Madison. I don't cast judgments about anyone. People live their lives in the way that they choose to live them, and God bless them. And just because that might be different from the way that I choose to live mine and you choose to live yours doesn't make me any better. It doesn't make me any worse. I just think it's unfortunate that, the fallout from this, I think certainly the company had an obligation to protect the material. I think the company had an obligation, particularly when they were saying we have a delete button and it'll delete everybody on here. Ashley Madison thing, I just think it's too bad that really people are bugging out and going crazy over the fact that they now have been exposed. But at the same time, we all engage in activities and we have to accept the consequences of our actions and the activities we engage in. And so, you have to know that if you're going to be involved in something like that, maybe there's a chance that information can spill. But I hope that people find peace. Yeah.
We do have a caller holding. Can I punch him up?
Please. Pretty please.
Okay. Let's go out to Virginia 703. Please state your name and where you're calling from. You're live on the phone with Joey Jackson.
Hi, this is Mary Wainwright.
No, how are you?
Hi, Joy. Hi, King Jordan. How are you guys?
Not nearly as
Very
good as you.
Well, I just wanted to obviously get on the show when you're on, Joy. It's interesting that you brought up about Amanda Knox because I was just in Rome last week.
Really?
And, yes, for a quick vacation, and the taxi driver, we just were, struck up in conversation, and I asked him, being an Italian living there, I said, "You've heard of Amanda Knox?" And he said, "Oh, yes, Do you think she is guilty?" And he said emphatically, yes.
Wow.
So that's interesting that, they pretty much kind of think that she is guilty, probably without any, facts or anything, just because that's how it is. But
yeah, that's amazing. So that's the public attitude there, huh? The public perception?
Yes, right. So my question is, if we go on to the Kim Davis situation, what can they do if she, because she has said she's going to uphold her moral right or whatever in her job and do what her morals call her to do. So if she goes back to work and she decides not to, give another license out to gays, what is going to happen?
Okay, well, a couple of things. First of all, fabulous to be speaking with you. I'm so glad you had an opportunity to call in, so I thank you for that. I know King Jordan does too. Secondly, moving backward before moving forward, I'm just wondering on the Amanda Knox issue, how much of the public perception of those in Italy had to do with the way it came out and the media presented the case versus what actually the transcripts show as to the actual evidence. Because remember, initially, Foxy Noxy, it was a sex game they were playing. It was fun so many ways. And unfortunately, the average person who's working, supporting a family, we read headlines, but not until or unless you're in that courtroom seeing the various bits of evidence do you get all the particulars. And so just no matter what public perception is, I think the Italian court evaluated each and every bit of evidence, and they were comfortable having examined it that she was not guilty. So, but I understand.
Right, I agree with that.
As a member of the public, they see a headline, they see what happens, oh, she's guilty. But, the judges really went and they scrutinized the case. So that's that on that issue. Moving on to the issue of Kim Davis, it's very clear that from the judge's order, if she does not follow the judge's order, she's going to be jailed. And the judge was very clear, saying you're not to interfere with this at all. And the only reason the judge let her out of jail, because she was held in contempt, was because her office, 5 deputies from her office, agreed to issue the licenses. And the people who needed the licenses ultimately were able to get those licenses, and that's what happened. So that's why, and that's why she was released from jail. And so the reality is, if she decides to impede in any way, she's going back. But there's an out, and that out is A, she could decide to resign from the office because she doesn't feel that it would be appropriate for her to take part in that. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Or number two, her lawyers could try to look for some religious accommodation, which allows her not to have any involvement with issuing licenses, but to be involved in every other aspect of the office. So it'd be interesting to see whether the court says, hey, this is part and parcel of your job. If you can't do your whole job, then get out of the job. Or if they say, B, we're going to allow a religious accommodation to, deal with your individual feelings. And that's how it's going to go.
Okay. Well, we'll see. I understand
yes, we will.
that her mother was a deputy clerk as well, and she has been the deputy clerk for a long time, so that is a big thing in their life.
Yeah, well, it may not be so big much longer if she continues to not obey the federal judge. That's for sure.
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay, well,
thank you, Mary.
so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
Good
you.
to talk to you, okay?
Okay, bye-bye.
And Lisa is also listening, Lisa Wilmot. I just want to also mention her. So, Joey, thank you a million.
If we have time, I'm glad to answer Lisa's question.
Oh, no. I'm reading Facebook. So
okay.
She says she's listening right now. So she sends her. A couple people writing, and they got the chills listening to the intro.
That was amazing.
That was something else. But always appreciate when you come on the show, Joey. You're one in a million. And when can we expect you on CNN next?
Well, if I am 1 in a million, you are 1 in 2 million, and so is Sharon and Maddie and all you other guys. So it's a great thing. Keep doing the great work that you're doing, and you influence so many people, and you always are on the side of justice and getting information out in a fair and accurate way, and that's something that is very much appreciated. So, but so we're back to work tomorrow. Tomorrow, not so much. Don't tell anybody, but I think I'm gonna take the day off tomorrow. Did I say that on air? No, I didn't. But I'll be back Saturday morning.
Nobody heard it.
But I'll be back Saturday morning on CNN. I'll be back on New Day weekend, first thing in the morning, and speaking about the latest issues of the week. So. But,
you really came
a
long way, Joey, in your years on television. You're, I think, ready to have your own show, and I say this with a lot of people backing me on this, and, a lot of people have great shows on the CNN network. We brought this up before, but in my opinion, I think it's time that you have your own show, and I think a lot of people would agree with me. You came from such a long time as I look back at the older clips, and you're just a natural. You're just amazing.
Wow. I am grateful, and I'm grateful to people like you and, so many other people out there who we mentioned, the Maddies and the Sharons and, the pagers and all of you who just are on the side of justice getting information out every day. And, I'm just fortunate to be able to do what I do. I'm going to keep doing it. And if it means that I'm, speaking on other people's shows, I'm grateful for that. If something else should develop, I'm grateful for that. So I'm just happy to be in the mix, and I'm happy to be speaking about, these legal cases that, people are very interested in and that have so much effect on all of our lives. So keep up the great work. I'm thankful for the invitation to be on with you. Let me know anytime you need me. I'm here. And kids are back to school.
Great
so
going over 9/11, even though it was a little hurtful in the beginning, but it was great to recapture that, 14 years later, especially with somebody like you.
Yeah,
so I appreciate that immensely.
It's a pleasure. No doubt. We gotta, continue to honor them and continue to support them and their families and continue to remember them in everything we do. So,
okay,
God
Joey.
Bless, my good
we'll
man.
Speak to you soon, and we'll see you on CNN shortly.
Take care.
Thanks,
Thank
Joey.
you.
Have a great one.
Be good.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was the legendary CNN anchor, CNN legal analyst. As you heard, he'll be on Saturday on the CNN network, so check him out. Joey Jackson. Join us Tuesday night for WWE. Join us Thursday night for Legal Talk. Alex Sanchez and 2 other people scheduled to join us next week at this time. Follow the show at King Jordan RAD, King Jordan Radio on Facebook. Once again, a big shout out to Joey Jackson. Big shout out to our caller from Virginia. So here's a little tribute that I'm going to play. This was shortly after 2001. Bette Midler, The Wind Beneath My Wings Live. This was done in Yankee Stadium for the victims of 9/11. So take a listen to this clip. It's beautiful, and God bless everybody, and have a wonderful weekend. We'll speak to you next week.
Iman Ishak El Pasha, we thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for music. And a woman who has moved and inspired and entertained people around the world for more than 20 years. She is a real friend of New York City, Miss Bette Midler.
Never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine. That's your way. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory. While you were the one with all the strain. A beautiful face without a name for so long. A beautiful smile to hide the pain. Did you ever know that you're my hero? You're everything I would like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle. For you are the wind beneath my wings. It might have appeared to go unnoticed, but I've got it all here in my heart. I want you to know I know the truth. Of course I know I would be nothing without you. Did you ever know that you're the wind beneath my wings.
As many as 2,000 kids lost parents on that day. Many others lost uncles and aunts. At least 100 September 11th widows were pregnant when their young husbands died. Their babies are now 3rd and 4th graders, and boys and girls who were toddlers on 9/11 have grown into teenagers. We talked to some of them recently.
On 9/11, I lost my father, John Robinson Lenore.
Benjamin Keith Clark. He's an executive chef.
My dad was Alvin Romero.
My uncle's name was Edward Lichshine.
Sergeant John Coughlin.
I was in my 5th grade class, and our teacher said, everyone look outside the window.
My teacher said it was just a little accident. Then I realized that it was much bigger than that.
My first thought was, is my father okay?
We were all in her bedroom watching this TV show.
I remember asking her, like, oh, Mom, what movie are you watching?
I remember she said that they're all gone.
I guess it just didn't click to me that what I was watching just wasn't a movie.
And, like, I remember looking out the window just thinking the whole thing was a dream.
Nobody else has lost a parent on national television, on the news. Nobody else has seen it happen over and over again. And that's something that we all have to live with.
My mother sat us down and had every cop's kid's worst nightmare talk that Daddy wasn't coming home. My little sister at the time just screamed out loud. All of a sudden, I was the oldest of the family. I had to step up right at that exact minute.
I was very, very angry. I know I punched the wall.
And I saw the world as like a gross, vulgar place full of hatred.
I do not remember a good 2 years of my life because I, just emotionally have blocked it all out.
Yeah, I don't really remember anything about it. Sometimes I think it was a better thing that I didn't know him and then he was taken away from me, or if it was a worse thing that I didn't get to spend the little time I would have known with him. And when your friends complain oh, my dad's so annoying, or he won't let me go out, or he won't let me do this, it's you get mad because you would do anything to have that. And they complain and they don't really appreciate what they have.
If we're talking about 9/11 in class,
and everybody would turn around and stare at me.
They almost know that I was affected by it directly.
Sometimes it makes me feel a tiny bit agitated because it's not like I would want to be known as, oh, his dad died, his dad was killed. I don't want to be known as that. I just want them to know me as me, for who I am.
Anywhere you went, we're right away labeled as the 9/11 kids. You always get people who are trying to help saying, I know how you feel, everything's going to be okay.
Brittany, I'm sorry that this happened to you, or Brittany, is there anything we can do? It makes me feel kind of cornered when everyone around me is oh yeah, Brittany, you lost your father, are you okay? I really think people expect us to fail sometimes. Every night I need to talk to my mom and my brother right before I go to sleep because I'm always afraid something's going to happen to them too.
Because I'm afraid if I lost one parent, I'm afraid of losing the other.
Life is short.
It could be taken away in an instant, just like it did on that Tuesday morning.
I cry more, I grieve more because now I recognize what I've lost. My mother will stand in the middle of the kitchen and be like, can you please stop acting just like your father?
Well, my mom always tells my sister and I that we have his smile or his sense of humor.
It took me a really long time to, like, not move on from the situation, but to accept the situation. But in the end, we came out pretty well.